Destined Guardians. Story by Sandu Fernando. There's a girl named Clara Jones who lives a normal and happy life. One fateful day dawned, and Clara had no idea it would change her life forever. That night, a party was being held at a friend's house from school, and she was leaving to attend it. She and her mother got into the car and drove to the house where the party was taking place. They got out at the gate, said goodbye to her mother, and Clara started to walk to her friend's house. It was a short walk from the gate to the house, and the moon was up that night, so the surroundings were well lit. As she walked a little further, she felt a strange glow in the moonlight, and it seemed as if the surrounding light was coming together and moving towards her. Clara stood there, staring as if she were in a daze, not knowing what was happening. Suddenly, Clara realized that the light had enveloped her and that something was happening to her. In an instant, everything returned to normal, and she continued walking toward the house, unsure if something had happened to her or if it was just her imagination. Clara attended the party and had fun with her friends. She told her best friend Sarah about the incident, and Sarah suggested that it must have been a dream. A few days after the incident, on a full moon night, Clara was in her room reading a book when she suddenly heard a voice. A boy she had never seen before was standing near her window. Clara was startled when she saw him, but he immediately called her name and introduced himself as Dave, a guide for the Dark Souls attackers. Dave explained to Clara that she had been chosen for the job on the full moon day of last month, and that she had inherited the position from her father. He told her it was time to fulfill her duty and that he was her coach. He instructed her to get ready as he would be back tomorrow night after 10 p.m. to train with her, and then he disappeared. Clara, unable to understand anything he said, stared out the window for a moment, unsure whether it was real or a vision like she had seen before. But then she remembered her father and how he would often leave the house at night when she was a child, claiming to be working. If what Dave said was true, she would have to wait until tomorrow night. The next morning, Clara was having breakfast with her mother. She asked her mother about her father's job and how he had died. Her mother repeated what she had been saying since she was a child, adding nothing new. Clara then asked about her father's relatives, and her mother mentioned that he had a sister who lived in their parents' house but did not know if she was still alive. Mother told her that she had not had any contact with them since her father's death. Mother asked why she was asking about all this now. Clara said that she had seen her father in a dream last night and that he was trying to tell her something. Seeing the worried expression on her mother's face, Mother advised her to be careful and not to talk to anyone she didn't know from that day onward. Clara became suspicious of her mother's behavior, but without saying anything about it, she wished her mother well and left home to go to college. After college, Clara told her best friend, Sarah, what had happened. Sarah suggested that if everything Dave had said was true, then they should visit Clara's father's sister to find out more. She offered to go with Clara. After college, they went to visit her father's sister, where they were warmly welcomed by her aunt, Anna Jones. Anna asked Clara why she had taken so long to find her, and she apologized for the delay. Anna then told Clara about her father, Edward Jones. She explained how he was chosen to be a guide for the Dark Souls, how he worked hard for it, and how he met her mother. Then Clara shared her recent experiences with Anna, who explained that Clara was now 16 years old, the age when people are chosen for that position, typically between 16 and 18. She then asked Anna about what had happened to her father. Anna revealed that something significant had occurred the last time he went on duty and that everyone in his group, including him, had disappeared. Despite several days of searching, no information was found, and their fate remains a mystery. Anna mentioned that she had tried to find out more several times but had been unsuccessful. Anna asked Clara about the young man who brought her the message, and she mentioned that his name was Dave. Upon hearing the name, Anna explained that Dave's father was also among the missing people, and that he was the leader of the group with some special abilities. After chatting, they were saying goodbye. Anna advised Clara and Sarah not to tell anyone about what they had discussed, especially emphasizing that she trusted Sarah to keep it a secret. Anna also encouraged Clara to visit her often, to which she agreed, promising to visit whenever she could. Clara and Sarah then bid farewell to Anna. That night, Clara went to her room after having dinner and saying goodnight to her mother. It was already past 8 p.m. At around 10 p.m., she opened her door and stepped out to check on her mother, who was sound asleep. When she returned to her room, she was startled to see Dave standing there. She asked how he got in, and he replied that he came through the window. Dave then said they had no time to waste and that she should get ready quickly so they could leave as soon as possible. Clara got ready and told Dave they couldn't use the main door to leave. He said they didn't need to and stood by the window, telling her to come over and hold his hand. She followed his instructions, and within moments, they were in a field-like area. Dave told Clara that he would train her and instructed her to be dedicated and diligent in her training. She agreed and started training. After a few hours, Dave said she had trained well and that they could start their work the following night. They then sat in the field for a while, and Clara asked Dave about their fathers. Dave told her that their fathers were good friends and had disappeared during a mission. Many people believed they were dead, but he refused to accept it. He had been waiting for Clara to be chosen for this position so they could work together to find their fathers while on other missions. He said she was the only person he could trust with the job. She agreed to the mission and promised to be available whenever needed. They talked for a while, and then Dave brought Clara back home, telling her to be ready for a mission the next night, and left. The next day was a day off, so Clara woke up early, finished all her chores, got everything ready for the night, and went to her father's office, which was usually locked. As she searched the room, she found a locked locker. She tried several passwords to open it, but it wouldn't unlock until she entered her birthday. Inside, she found a diary, which she took out before closing the locker. Clara went to her room, closed the door, and began flipping through the diary. It contained daily records of her father's operations, including a note from the day before he disappeared. The note stated that he and his team were embarking on a serious mission, and if they failed, he believed that his daughter Clara and his best friend's son Dave would complete the mission. As soon as Clara read it, she called Dave and asked him to meet her as soon as possible. After a while, Dave visited Clara, and she showed him the details in her father's diary. After reading it, he said that his father had told him where the last mission had taken place, and that despite visiting the location several times, he hadn't found any clues. Clara suggested that they go together to investigate further. Dave agreed, but mentioned that it might take a few days. Clara said she could find an alternative. After explaining what he had to do that night, Dave said he would return later and then disappeared. In the afternoon, Clara went to see her aunt and showed her father's diary, which mentioned that Dave and she were going to find the place as instructed. Her aunt gave her a necklace with a pendant and told her to wear it at all times for protection. Clara put it on and immediately felt a strange sensation. After talking to her aunt, she returned home, where her mother had also arrived. When her mother asked where she had gone, Clara said she had met a friend and went inside. At lunchtime, she asked her mother if her father had done any other work besides his job. Her mother remained silent for a while, wondering why Clara was so interested in his work, and if she had learned something about her father. Her mother eventually replied, "No." Clara suspected that her mother knew something and was hiding it out of fear for her safety. Clara then told her mother that the college was holding a summer camp and that she had decided to participate. Since she had participated in such activities before, her mother did not object. After lunch, Clara informed Dave that she had asked her mother for permission to go out for a few days, and he replied that they would discuss the details during the mission that night. Meanwhile, Clara's mother came to her and asked if she was hiding anything. She said no and explained that she wanted to know about her father because a boy from college had asked about him. Her mother accepted this explanation and, with tearful eyes, told Clara that her father was a wonderful person who loved them both immensely. Clara was surprised, as her mother had never spoken about her father like that before. She consoled her mother. When Clara asked if she felt lonely without him, her mother admitted, "I feel very lonely." She also apologized to Clara for not talking much about her father, explaining that she had promised herself to keep the information from Clara until she was old enough. She reassured her mother that she didn't mind, and that her mother could share details about her father whenever she felt ready. Clara suggested that this might be why her mother hadn't spent much time with her, and that she felt guilty about it. Clara reassured her mother not to think that way, and said that she had understood her mother's reasons since she was a child. Her mother expressed relief and said that she couldn't bear to lose Clara like she had lost her husband, and they hugged. After a while, Clara's mother left, and she went to her room to think about everything. She wondered if she was doing the right thing by hiding all this from her mother, but she realized that she was doing it to find her father, and once she found him, her mother would forgive her. At 10 p.m., Dave and Clara set off on their first mission. They completed it successfully, said goodbye to the other members of the group, and went to a place where they could talk. They discussed their personal missions, and since they had no missions for another week, they decided to take advantage of the opportunity to pursue their own goals. They also talked about Clara leaving home the next morning and meeting Dave. After their discussion, Dave dropped Clara off at home and left. The next morning, Clara said goodbye to her mother and went to the place where Dave had told her to meet him. He was already there waiting for her. They greeted each other and began their journey. Meanwhile, Clara called Shara and told her to inform her mother that she had other work to do and would not be attending this time. After a short distance, they entered the forest, and after a while, they arrived at the place mentioned in Clara's father's diary. After resting for a while, they began their mission, following the clues that Dave had found so far. Suddenly, Clara noticed something behind a bush, and when they both approached it, they saw what looked like a door. Dave tried to open it alone, but it was a futile effort. Clara suggested they both place their hands on the door lock together, and it opened. Dave entered first, followed by Clara. As soon as they entered, the door closed behind them. As they walked a little further, they saw a path in the middle of the forest that seemed to be frequently used. They walked carefully, hearing voices ahead. After a little further, they saw a place that looked like a small village. They found a safe spot to sit down, and Dave suggested they stay there for a while to observe the people and understand what they were doing. Clara agreed. Over several hours, they watched and learned about the villagers. They overheard discussions about prisoners and how the two men their priest had promised had not arrived, sparking a debate on what to do with the prisoners. A leader-like figure instructed to bring the prisoners for a decision. Dave and Clara were shocked to see their fathers among the prisoners. Unsure how to proceed, they debated their next move. Clara advised patience, warning that rushing could endanger everyone. They agreed to wait and observe for a better opportunity to act. At that time, he explained who the villagers had been waiting for. After hearing this, she, a bit confused, suddenly asked Dave if it could be the two of them. He asked how that could be. She explained that no matter how many times he had come near the door, he had never found it. And when he tried to open it alone, it wouldn't budge. But when they opened it together, it worked. Dave agreed. Clara suggested that the villagers might have brought their fathers there because they wanted the two of them. She added that their calculations and what the priest had said might indicate that they were destined to come and save their fathers. Dave then asked Clara what the villagers could gain from them. Clara suggested that they might have a power within them that they didn't yet know about, and that they needed to work together to activate that power. Dave took a book from his bag, one he had taken from the bookshelf at home, and said that it might have the answers to everything Clara had said. As they turned the pages, she saw the necklace her aunt had given her. She showed it to him, explaining that her aunt had given it to her. At that moment, Dave showed her the necklace he was wearing, saying that his father had given it to him. His pendant was a sun with an orange stone in the middle, while Clara's pendant was a moon with a blue stone in the middle. They realized there was a connection and continued to turn the pages. They found a clue about the pendants. The book stated that these pendants could only be worn by two chosen by their gods, granting them unlimited power. It explained that if the two joined together, they could destroy all evil spirits and protect the world until two more were chosen after them. As long as they were together, no trouble would come to them and no one could harm them. They would receive this power at the right age on a midnight when the moon was half, by holding hands, allowing the power inside and outside them to join. Additionally, before they gained that power, a sacrifice using their blood could grant evil spirits unimaginable power and cause great destruction. Everything became clear to them. Evil spirits had been waiting for them for so long. They realized they should be careful until midnight, when they would be able to save their fathers. They discussed that after midnight, they would obtain the power mentioned in the manual, defeat the evil spirits, and save their fathers. Until then, they needed to hide from the evil spirits. They set out to find a suitable hiding place. After walking a short distance, they found a spot where they could hide and settled there. A few hours later, night fell, and after memorizing the steps to gain power, Dave and Clara heard voices while eating their food. They saw the evil spirits coming their way and remained silent. Fortunately, the spirits turned in a different direction. Finally, midnight arrived, and they emerged from their hiding place and went to a spot illuminated by the moon. They held hands and began to recite the spells from the manual. Gradually, they were lifted up, and their bodies were filled with powers from all directions. At the end of the spell, a great light shone and spread in the direction of the evil spirits, alarming them. Realizing what they had feared had happened, the spirits gathered and prepared to flee. Dave and Clara arrived and destroyed the evil spirits. Afterward, they saved their fathers, reuniting after many years with emotional hugs. As they were about to leave, Clara's father mentioned that other members needed rescuing too. Dave and Clara rescued everyone and they all left. Upon emerging, everyone greeted them. Dave's father instructed them to go to the main operations office. At the office, everyone welcomed them. Dave's father addressed the group, announcing that the evil spirits would no longer be active and requested Clara and Dave to meet daily after 10 p.m. to ensure safety. The two agreed, and everyone dispersed. Dave, Clara, and their fathers also agreed to meet at night and then went home. Clara told her father everything that had happened while he was away. On the way home, she suggested meeting her aunt, and her father agreed. They took Anna with them, and her father was overjoyed to see his brother. He promised Anna that Clara would tell her everything when they got home. When they got home, it was almost lunchtime. Clara saw her mother in the garden tending to the flowers and plants, and her father was indescribably happy to see his wife. She told her father and aunt to stay in the car while she went to bring her mother. Clara got out of the car, went into the garden, and spoke to her mother. Her mother was surprised to see her and asked if her summer camp had ended so soon. Clara said she would explain later and pointed to the car, saying there was someone her mother knew inside. Clara's father watched from the car, his eyes filled with tears, remembering his fear of never seeing his wife or daughter again. Before Clara's mother could open the door, he got out of the car and ran to her. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw him, and nearly fainted, but Clara held her. He reached her and hugged her tightly before kissing her. They all went inside the house, and after being treated by Bella, she and Aunt asked Clara to explain what had happened. She recounted everything from the beginning. Her mother was initially angry, but that anger faded as she realized they were safe. Clara's father explained that he and his friend had been waiting for Clara and Dave, though they feared they might not be able to do everything. They understood what had happened from the light that spread in the middle of the night. Bella then told Clara and Edward not to go on such missions again, as she couldn't bear to lose them. Edward promised he wouldn't go on any missions, but said Clara and Dave would have small duties to do every day. Bella reluctantly agreed. After all the discussions, Edward told Bella that his friend and his son would be coming over that evening, and they needed to prepare dinner. Edward's friend and his son Dave came home, and they all had a nice chat. After dinner, Clara and Dave left for work at 10 p.m. and asked his father to stay at Clara's house until they returned. After completing their work, Clara and Dave back to home. Meanwhile, Dave told Clara that he would come to drop her off and pick her up when she started school again, and that it was his job to protect her. He asked Clara to call his name if she had any trouble, and he would come to her immediately. Clara smiled softly and promised that she would do so, and told him to call her name if he had any trouble too. Seeing him smile, Clara asked him a little angrily if he had forgotten what was written in the manual. She reminded him that their strength was stronger when they were together. Dave smiled and said he remembered it all, and he smiled because of how she said it. He promised Clara that he would do as she said. After promising everything, the two held hands and walked down the street to Clara's house.